There is a race that most people who love horses know about. Not because it was the fastest race ever run, not because the winner set a record, because of what happened in the middle of it, in the space between the starting gate and the finish line, where one horse made a decision that racing charts cannot fully record, and that the people who witnessed it say they have never found the right words for. The horse was good before the race began. This is important to establish, because what happened during the race was not the story of an underdog who was never expected to compete. This was an animal in full form, trained, ready, built for running. And what happened to it during the race was neither planned nor predictable. It was simply the kind of thing that happens in the middle of difficult things to the animals and people who have decided to run them. The race began the way races begin, in a rush of speed and noise, and the specific, organized chaos of many powerful animals moving in the same direction at the same time. The horse ran as he had been trained to run, reading the field, conserving energy in the early stages, finding his position, doing exactly what years of preparation had built him to do. Mid-race, the injury came. Not dramatically. Injuries rarely announce themselves the way stories would have them. A stumble, a change in gait so slight that only those watching closely would have caught it. But the horse knew. Whatever a horse knows about the interior of its own body, which is more than we can measure and less than we can explain. This horse knew that something had changed in the machinery of the running, and that the running was now happening at a cost it had not been paying at the start. The horse did not stop. Not because horses cannot stop mid-race. They can. Not because this horse did not feel what was happening. It felt it. But because somewhere in the specific nature of what this horse was, in the years of training, in the deep inherited drive of an animal bred for generations to run when the gate opens, giving up was simply not available as a response. The horse did not choose to continue. Continuing was what the horse was. The crowd noticed before the commentators named it. The crowd always notices before the commentary catches up, because the crowd is watching with their whole bodies, and the commentary is watching with words. A hush fell in sections. The way silence moves through a crowd when they understand what they are seeing is not ordinary. When they understand, they are witnessing something that will stay with them longer than the result of the race. What the horse was doing was not racing anymore in the strict sense of the word. It was not competing for position. It was not running the tactical race it had begun. It was doing something simpler and more essential. It was going in the direction it had been pointed, at everything it had left, because that is what the horse did when the gate opened. And a gate having opened is a thing that does not unopen, simply because the running has become more expensive than it was at the start. The jockey understood. Jockeys learn to read the animal beneath them through vibration and rhythm, and the specific vocabulary of movement that develops between a rider and a horse over time. This jockey understood what was happening below them and made the decision that some jockeys make in that moment. Not to demand more, not to push for position, to stay with the horse, to be present for what the horse was choosing to do, to ride with it rather than on top of it. The horse was not going to win the race. This was clear by the time it reached the final stretch. The injury had cost too much speed, too much ground, too much of the mechanical advantage that racing is built on. But the horse was going to finish the race. This was also clear, increasingly, undeniably clear, to everyone watching. And the distinction between those two things, between winning the race and finishing it, is the difference between what was lost and what was given. The horse crossed the finish line. Not first, not in any position that the racing world records as significant, but it crossed it with the injury that had changed everything about how the crossing would happen, at the cost of everything it had in it, in the full continuation of what it was, an animal that runs when the gate opens, that goes in the direction it is pointed, that does not reach inside itself for whether stopping is available, and find that it is. The care that came after was given with the specific seriousness that people give to something they have just watched do something extraordinary. The veterinarians were thorough. The stable staff were quiet. The jockey stayed longer than was required. And everyone present understood, without it being said, because some things do not require saying to be completely understood, that what they had just witnessed was not about a race. It was about something in the horse that the race had simply made visible. The horse recovered. It ran again, in time, in other races, and in fields with no one watching. And what the people who had been at that race carried with them, what they brought home in the quiet after the noise, was not the result of the race. It was the knowledge of what they had seen running toward the finish line when it had every reason to stop. The knowledge that giving up requires a certain architecture of the self, and that some horses and some people are simply not built with the room for it.